give him what's left of my beef tips.
Everything you're saying tonight is just so dirty.
Give him just the tips.
Give him just the
I
tips.
did say beef tips.
I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think somebody has some needs or something that's going on.
Somebody wants some beef tip. Or beef tips. Multiple.
No.
It's just turned into a group activity.
Nah.
You always have to ramp it up a little bit more each time. No, just me? Got serious. We are Squawking Dead, a podcast. Well, that's weird. That was a weird one. I don't like
It's
it.
too high
Very
energy.
aggressive.
I don't like it.
It was like Sharondy's
Calm down,
angry
David.
emoji. It was
Calm
like
down.
I was yelling at the crowd.
See, that was it. He was using my angry emoji.
Just channeling the emoji. The fake, non-existent anger that you had.
We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing programs beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, most times we go deep. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I'm joined by Cosmom09, Rachel Burt, Sharon D, aka Blazy Gardner, and Bridget, ko-fi.com/punkybruiser. That's PUNKYBRUISETER. And it's really great, I should say, to have all of you here all at once. It's weird. This has not been the case for the last few weeks, depending on the show, but usually
It's been a weird and
The Walking
busy
Dead.
few weeks for everybody.
And today we're here to talk about The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, the Book of Carol's 5th episode of its 2nd season, titled Vouloir, c'est Pouvoir, which means where there's a will, there's a way. Well, I said this to Evelyn today. It's been great to see people follow on Ko-fi and Patreon. We got Mags, who just joined a trial membership on Patreon. That was really great to see. And a couple of other things. It was like little bits and pieces that people were following after my little call to action. I'm now interfacing with the From community a little bit more on Twitter. That's been very nice. And special thanks and shout out to @Connie Dixon for LYF. That's Kira, for introducing me to a couple of counts. That was really, really nice. To cap it off, really, is that I want to be able to make you happy. And I think when we entice you to join these memberships, it's really just to get you through the door, because when you get here, you'll understand that, oh, I should have done this a long time ago. You'll really, really like it on the other side of the glass. Is what I'm saying. We're great people, and I think you're going to love interacting with us in our home turf, telling us what to do and what we're doing wrong, which you never do. You're great when you're behind the wall. Let's talk about this episode. I thought of a new way to start the conversation. And I thought, why didn't I think of this before? It's like the most duh sort of thing. But it kind of came from one of the episodes that we talked to. Actually, it came from the 3rd episode of Daryl Dixon, L'Invisible, The Invisible. And I asked about the title and what is it in relation to this episode? And it was the duhest moment. And it was a great kind of segue into, well, what does that mean? Who is invisible in the episode? So I was thinking, so vouloir, c'est pouvoir means where there's a will, there's a way. Let's talk about that first. Yeah, I guess. Sure. Great title.
Okay.
Let's move on, Dave. Wrap it up.
So I think it pertains to many aspects of the episode. First, there's Carol's will in turning Ash to her way. And then there's Daryl's will in turning Laurent to his way. And then there's Losang, who is trying to turn the camp to bend their will to his way. So I think it was about all of those things and all of those people.
So obviously, it's a nice play on pouvoir de vivant, power of the living. A lot of it is, of course, we'll get this plane in the air somehow. We'll find a way to get it in the air. There's that. Where there's a will, there's a way. Let's clean the plane. Let's get all the ethanol for the plane so we can go home, which is what everybody seems to want.
I was just going to say, I feel like this title kind of applies to the entire Walking Dead universe as a whole. It's a repeated theme that we constantly are seeing. We could make a drinking game out of, there's got to be another way. We've heard it a million times, and there always is. There always is another way. As long as there's a will, there's a way. And we've seen it time and time and time again.
I remember distinctly Fear. That question was always around, I think, season 6, season 7. We got to find a way.
Yeah.
And then in The Ones Who Live, it's like, We got this. We got this. We can handle anything that comes our way. The difference between the two shows, one is hopeless and one is too hopeful.
Too hopeful.
But it's funny that you said that, though, because the show literally asks, the characters literally ask, why us? Daryl says, why us? And Carol says, yes, lucky. Thank you. Perfect
Because
answer,
we're the ones
Carol.
who live.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
That's
what
why.
you thought should have been said?
No, it's just that in The Ones Who Live, we got all of the characters saying that line. So it kind
Or
of
doing
came
everything
back
in their power
around.
not to say the line.
No, in The Ones Who Live, the first episode, there's that montage. Melissa McBride is in that. There's like a bunch of people in that.
No, that was the last episode of The Walking Dead.
Okay, well, there you go. Whatever. It tied into the next series.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to Carol, should she have said that? We're the
No.
ones who live. If she did say that, Daryl should have said, the F you talking about. That's what he should have said. What do you mean we're the ones who live? Like ordained by God? Since when did you get religious? I just want a joke there. I want a joke.
It's not. It's flopping. It's flopping real hard, Dave. What I was going to say is that I had looked up this title to this episode, and all about French.com translation I was given is that it is just when we really want something, we can reach it. And I wish it had just said where there's a will, there's a way, because then I would have known what the literal translation was instead of that weird translation. Because once you said it, then my brain just started playing the song from the Hobbit animated movie, where there's a whip, there's a way.
When did the Hobbit become so BDSM?
It's the animated Hobbit
That's
movie.
what she said.
That's
Where
the
there's
adult.
a whip, there's a way. It's the song that the orcs sing.
Yeah, I bet they do. They must have worked at the Le Demi-Bon.
I might need to watch this.
I mean, if you're into
Oh,
animated
man.
stuff, I guess.
No.
It's
It's not
great.
sexy. It's not
It doesn't
sexy.
hold up.
Are you talking about
I mean,
the one
people
from the
remember
70s?
it's like everything.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, the cartoon, yeah.
It's
And
like where
my
there's
best
a
one-
whip, there's a way. That's I don't know. That's how the song goes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's
already
what I
bad.
thought of.
Yeah, cringe. You're fine. It's just you remember things differently.
Well,
when you're
to
an
be
adult.
cringe is to be free, Dave. Apparently,
How very French of
that's
you.
what I've been told. That's what I've been told.
Did
All
you
of
say
France wants to be
French or
free.
French?
I said to be cringe
It's
is to
fringe.
be
Oh.
free.
Okay.
It's French and cringe. It's fringe.
Fringe.
French
Parlez-vous
people can be
French?
just as cringy.
Why not cringe?
Oh, I like that better. Cringe. I
Cringe?
don't know. It's got a good sound to it.
Oh,
It's
like
not-
French. Oh my god.
He was like, "What? What is?
It
What's
took me a moment.
cringe?" I'm sorry, French people, if you're listening to this. This is probably horrible.
Yeah, they hate it. We do this for you though.
While we're addressing cringe, I don't know, whatever we're going to call it, let's address that little sly comment that they put in there where the lady at Demi-Monde was
Which
like, you
one? There's so
Americans.
many.
I don't
You
even
were-
want to talk about it. I don't even want to talk about it. I was like, "Come on,
I mean-
you guys."
I mean, she's not wrong, but
It's ironic too
It was-
because
well,
they're not anywhere.
but see, look, so
it just happens to be in this club a lot.
remember the whole thing in Acheron 1 or 2? I can't remember.
Acheron?
When they're in the tunnels and they see the whole thing about how the class warfare and all that.
yes,
They've never shied away from sticking little political things in there.
I think it was more like American tourists are everywhere. That was the dig. It was a cultural dig.
No,
Mm.
that's not what she said at all.
Can you clarify then? What I took it as you
it's
American
not like
tourists seem to
America
be
has ever
everywhere.
fallen for a fascist.
Exactly.
That was the exact line.
Oh, there was the. Oh, you were talking about that.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the comment where she says, "You Americans, you seem to be popping up everywhere."
No.
That's
like
fair.
as tourists.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
you're
get,
talking
I
about
get
the,
that, but no, I was talking about the fascist line, which I just thought it was funny that they slid that in there.
Yeah, at least America didn't fall for fascists, is what she said. Are you saying you're transposing that to today?
I knew people were going to do that. It's not
Really?
factual. It was a dig.
Exactly. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
It
It was a dig.
True.
They weren't coming out and saying anything, but it was a little dig in there for people that were looking for that sort of thing or
Mhm.
attuned to that sort of thing. I knew they were referring to World War II, obviously, but it was
Right,
still
right.
in there.
It was just a little.
Yeah.
Actually, it should be like this.
Just like in season 1 when they made the American guy the biggest D-bag in the world.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah. Just a little middle finger to you. They're just
Mhm.
flipping the bird.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little cringy.
Well, I
It was
only-
a little bit
I only
cringy.
I
Gosh.
didn't register that as a dig because she was literally talking about Genet and they were kind of hammering the point home of she says another Genet will pop up soon enough and
Of
I
course.
would want also to be in America.
Power vacuum.
So I didn't really...
The many-headed
This is
Hydra.
why I didn't think it was ironic, because the idea of them going to America kind of negates that fact. And so that's why it didn't register with me at the very least, that it was a dig on American politics, which is recognizing that in your history, really, the people you seem to call fascists are nothing of the sort at all. That's my take on that.
Dave's TED Talk. It's like, it's the shortest TED Talk of all time.
It's like, you want to talk fascist?
Wouldn't that be a dead talk?
Died.
It's dead talk.
Oh, yeah, dead talk.
There you go. It's a DED talk. Yeah. What does TED stand for? This is such a non sequitur.
Technology, education, and development.
So it's death, evisceration, more death.
Death, evisceration, Dave. Sorry, it should have been Dave?
Dave question mark. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. When I go on a monologue, oh, thank you for listening to my dead talk. Ew. More cringe. And I just compounded it. Where did we almost cry, at least?
I'm sorry. Here's the thing. So I watched the last 3 episodes back to back today.
That alone made her cry.
My brain's kind of like swimming right now.
With tears.
Just because of how busy I've been. There's death back to back to back to back to back. This episode, I don't know when I cried.
I didn't cry, but I got like, I don't know how
Misty?
to. Not even. But I was just like, oh.
Oh, no, I literally had to wipe away tears and hide my face.
It's going to surprise you because it had nothing to do with any of our main characters. It was when they found the guy still alive in the airplane hangar.
Oh,
and he was,
really?
And he was begging Daryl to kill him.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
really
Wow.
surprised.
Okay.
Yeah. It shocked me too. I was surprised that I felt that way, but he didn't want to suffer anymore, I guess. And he was just begging Daryl to
Or
kill him.
also, he didn't want to die there and then turn into a walker. Whereas if Daryl killed him, he would never have to worry about that.
Daryl could have killed him a lot of different ways and still turned. He just said, kill me. He didn't say stab me in the head or don't let me turn. He just said, kill me.
I think in this world, when you beg for death, that's probably the thought, is that
French
you not
people want to be
turn.
free. The backdrop to all of that is kind of what everybody sort of, mostly Anna Valerie, the demi-monde madam. She says the French want to be free, and they saw the plane come in a few days ago with Carol on it, she assumes correctly. And people are rushing to that plane, and he's just one of those people, and he made it. He got yay far, and it shrap killed him.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah.
It just shows you the state of the world. It complements the scene that we saw Genet in. It was the second episode where Genet's trading guns for food and then invites to Maison Mère, getting people to come in. And then you find out later they're separating people and some are going to experiments and stuff. Anna Valerie says there's going to be another Genet before long. But then you realize that's got to be happening everywhere. Yes, it's happening in France and you're focused on France. Because my first thought about that was, at least America didn't fall for fascists. I actually thought of Negan in that moment. He was top down. I'm the rule maker. The rules don't... I mean, he followed his own rules, but those rules were kind of not great, and they're mostly tilted in his direction. I get to do a lot of things. Lieutenants get to do a lot of things. People, not so much.
That was what I thought was Negan.
I got misty during Laurent's conversation with Codron. There was just something so...
Is that when yours was too, Sean?
That was one of them. It was so tranquil. This kid is a great actor. I say that because I see why people are comforted by Laurent. As someone who is not religious, the prayer and stuff doesn't affect me, but just the idea of forgiveness and that he was so quick to forgive and all that. He is a pure kid. Despite everything he's seen and everything that's happened to him, he still has like this goodwill towards everybody. Judith is that way too, and we've seen a lot of the kids like that, but I see there's something special in Laurent too. It's just something about him. He's very calming and quiet, and watching him just makes you feel quiet.
Everything kind of becomes clear. It's kind of like stop screaming in your head and body for 1 second. I'm talking about from enough for you to kind of see that there's a way. This kid even admits so many people died to get me here. And that's a lot to carry.
So the first scene that made me cry was when he was talking to Daryl. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but it made me think, what kind of a weight is that for a child to carry? To know that so many people have died so that you can be where you are and fulfill what your destiny is supposed to be. Judith has had to go through the same thing. How many people died to get Judith where she is? I started thinking about what a weight that is for a child to carry and how well Laurent carried it. And it just made me cry.
Well, to suddenly realize through Codron, these sacrifices, and obviously it's different, but to see that here's a man who tried to be a leader, and you could put that on, you could compare that to Daryl. This guy's tried to be a leader. Stéphane Codron, he was supposed to protect his brother Michel, protect his men, protect France. Subsequently, all of it failed. I was supposed to keep my brother out of harm's way. My family's gone, my men are gone. And then he suddenly realized, oh, wow, I just lost Sylvie. He'd found out Isabelle was dead. I think that's what really got me the most, was seeing himself in Codron and seeing that he too feels the same way. And he is really telling himself, I hope someday you can forgive yourself, but he's not taking his own advice, mostly. He says he doesn't want to go with Daryl throughout the episode. Throughout. By the way, the actor, Romain Levy, is the one who really got me in that scene. Just seeing him at peace, but then being faced with the very person who he's made miserable in the first season and begging for forgiveness.
Props to Rachel for predicting that he was going to be the good guy back in season 1. I don't get it, Rachel. He wasn't dead yet. What did you see in him?
He's so close to death, though. He's so close. He's licking death's armpit.
Season's not over yet.
The dough's not done.
Sort of a play on a line that we've heard before. Michonne, she said, what is it? Stupid.
Anger makes you stupid. Stupid gets you killed.
Yeah, that was very similar to the conversation that Laurent and Codron had about anger makes you do terrible things and being afraid can make you do terrible things. That conversation really hit hard. We can apply a lot of things loosely to our own lives and stuff, but that was a big one. When you are scared of something or even angry, I think anger might be worse because when you do things out of anger, it never ends well. I've told Silas since he was old enough to understand words, you can't solve a problem if you're angry. If you feel yourself getting angry, you need to stop whatever you're doing and calm yourself down. You need to get back to a better headspace and then return to the problem that you're having. Because if you try to solve anything, I don't care what you're doing, it's not going to work. You're not going to solve any problems when you're in that headspace.
From the mouths of babes, too. But I think he was also relating it to, was what Sharondy's point was, from the mouths of babes. From this babe, Sigliuzzi. Anyway, I try to say his name. I fail. But I think really what Laurent was getting at, I can't believe that I'm attributing this wisdom to this kid. Anger was what you used, but all of it came from fear. It goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Almost as like it was the most polite way to say, actually, it wasn't anger that drove you. It was fear that you were going to lose everything, and you did.
Yeah. He didn't come out and say it, but I think the overall message here was sometimes you do bad things, but it doesn't make you a bad person.
Yes, definitely yes. I really had to think about that for a minute because it's hard.
None of us would want to be judged by the worst thing we've ever done. Does that make us bad people?
No.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Even from a religious perspective, we're all in the same batting field. We're all in the same field because we all are sinners, originally. So even that carries through with this religious concept as well.
Speak for yourself. I don't really believe in that.
I was trying to think of what you said a minute ago, why it sounded so familiar, and it's because Yoda said it. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Leads to the dark side. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The Sith mantra. Leads to the dark side, suffering does. Anyway.
Oh my God.
Had to be done.
Go back to the nest, Laurent, you will.
That's Losang. Losang is like anyway. But it's ironic, though, too, because there's an argument to be made of why Laurent seems very clear in this moment with Codron. He's so sage, he just rattles off the answer really fast, and he's very sage-like, and he's just in the zone. And even at the end, when he suddenly decides to go with Daryl, all of that kind of locks into place when you realize that Laurent is really trying to tell himself the same things that he's trying to tell Codron, that he's afraid of Daryl dying. And so he's basically faking it till he makes it and trying it on Stéphane first. Interesting to kind of think about if you really see what the psychology is that he's employing. Like, he knows the answer, but he's not going to apply it to himself right away until he sees that this experiment works first. And it seems to give Codron comfort. So he's like, now I'm going to save that in my pocket. I'm going to keep pushing Daryl away until he convinces me to go with him. And then I can believe it. And so that actually made a little bit more sense of that part for me, thanks to this conversation.
You're welcome.
That I had with myself for the most part.
Shut up. We're here.
I took all your input. I really integrated that a little bit. But this is a good lateral move to Ash because Carol kind of does this thing where she doesn't say it implicitly, but we should be picking it up. Why these people sacrificed themselves, living or dead. Anna Valerie, she says, I'm not doing this ethanol thing, giving you more than I can really give you for you. She says it's really for the kid. Everybody's sacrificing for the kid. But why? Because in him is hope for the future. It didn't have to be Laurent. It could be any kid. But this kid is special. He's been through a lot. He lost his mom during childbirth. She was a walker.
It's how
and they
he
gave birth
came
to him
into
and
the
all that
world.
stuff.
Yeah, that's what matters.
Yeah.
Right.
But then everything after that, it's like everybody wants France to be free. Everybody wants to go back to normal. And this kid, doesn't matter that he can do the thing that everybody seems to want him to do. He's a symbol of that eventual future that people can have that is somewhat maybe back to normal, or if not normal. You can easily transpose that to Ash. I'm going to say this. You can criticize me. Maybe some people might agree with me, but I do think in a very small seedling kind of way that Carol loves Ash. She has a love for Ash. And obviously, you like in others what you like in yourself, sure. And Ash wasn't tainted and had to go through the hard knocks that Carol did. Carol sees an alternate future to who she could have been with Ash. And I think she genuinely loves the fact that he took a chance on her, albeit under false pretenses. And the thing that ticked me off the most about this episode, but I completely understand because we all do it, is that she held back the truth from him for so long until the very end when she felt like there was just really no recourse and he did not deserve that. I liked seeing vulnerable Carol own up.
Was it about that,
I think that's
Dave?
the most vulnerable.
Or was it about relieving her own guilt?
This is why I say I really do think she cares about him. I
Well,
think she doesn't
cares
do it to
about
relieve her
him.
own guilt.
I think she cares about him, but oftentimes, who truly gets hurt when she gets that off her chest? It's him.
Well, everybody else. And holding
She
back.
only gets the relief of
And
not carrying that burden anymore. So I don't know that that was the wisest decision, but I
would
get it.
normally agree
It's
with
the
you, by
right
the way.
thing to do.
100%. I feel like I'm Rachel in this moment.
Well,
I would normally 100% agree with you.
I feel like she
But
could
I
have
don't
waited till
feel
they
that
got
way.
back to America before she made her pilot angry.
That too.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
That
I mean,
too.
I agree, but
When you say
Sure.
love,
Yeah.
do you mean like platonic love, or are you talking about like romantic love?
I think a little bit of both. There is a seedling of something that could be there. I was the first one to say I do not like the age difference between these two. However,
I'm sorry. Did you
We
miss the
talked about this
eyes that
briefly.
she gave Falou? Because
well,
She was looking at him some
let's
type of
go back to
way.
that. I'm going to bring that up in the greater context of something else, but let's focus on this because you don't see it, and that's fine. I didn't see it too. I didn't want to see it because of the age difference. And then one of you guys said, it doesn't matter, it's the apocalypse, and you're right.
We can take the
Something there.
apocalypse out of it. I don't think age matters at all. As long as you're of age consenting adults, age plays no factor into who you are attracted to or have feelings for, period.
Do you know what else plays a factor? Shallowness, appearances. Yeah, okay, I judged, and then I changed my mind about that judgment. I was prejudiced. I'm admitting it. I'm not too proud. I'm not like Carol gaslighting you into white lying her way into France, basically. But yeah, I'm changed my mind. I'm into it now. I'm seeing it. They're making me see it, albeit in the same way most people see Carol and Daryl. I'll admit that too.
I enjoyed their scenes together early on when they were really funny. They had me laughing. They were really cute together at the beginning.
I'm still kind of reeling over Bridget's comment about relieving her own guilt. I'm just really torn about it because you're right. Yes, because when you admit something like that, the person receiving the information is hurt and she does get a sense of relief. Lying is bad. So if you tell a lie, you should.
Yes.
I mean-
no, I'm not saying that lying is good. I'm not saying that
You're right.
lying is good. I'm not saying that lying is good.
No, I
It's
know.
just that in
I
this
know.
particular situation, all telling him does is hurt him because he doesn't technically have to know this information in order to move forward.
Usually when you tell a lie, it's to protect somebody's feelings. So when you come forward and tell the truth, it's always going to hurt that person.
What I'm saying is I don't think it benefited him in any way to have that knowledge. He'd already said, hey, I'm moving on. You helped me move along. I moved past my son. I'm back out in the world. So basically what she did was say, oh, so everything that made you do that was false. And so now you're going to take a step back where you were before. So I feel like that wasn't necessary for him to know that.
I'm on the other side. I feel like this was her way of reestablishing that trust, saying, look, before we make any more decisions going forward, I want you to make every decision going forward knowing the truth. Whether that means you tell me to F off and we have to figure something else out, then so be it. But you need to know the truth and make your decisions from this point on with the accurate story.
Can I just ask a question in response to that? Because I love it so much. I really, really love that answer. Why? Why does she want him to know the truth? You know that it's not because it's the right thing to do. There's something there with her particularly I'm not saying it's my answer. I'm just saying what you think.
I don't know. I mean, I can only give a real answer based on my own perspective. What's going through Carol's mind? I couldn't say for sure. But I do think it's a little bit of what Bridget said. I think this is her sort of lifting her own guilt
Relieving
over,
a burden?
yeah. And also coming to terms.
I'm not saying it's the wrong
Sophia.
thing to do. I want us to acknowledge that is an aspect of it.
Oh, yeah. No, listen. And you're right. You're right to kind of bring that out because that's what usually it is about in many cases, let's say, right? I say this because when I see Carol owning up to something like that, where she's having a hard time telling Daryl the truth, it takes so long to get to the final thing with even Daryl. But the whole thing is about, I want to say this thing because I actually care about this person. I know they brought up Ezekiel in this episode. I got little goosebumps. I was like, oh, that's interesting that she said that. Okay. Thanks, Laurent. You prayed for Ezekiel, for Carol. Okay, I understand that. It's great. Fine, let's move on.
Daryl would have had to be the one to tell him who Ezekiel is, too.
Just like Connie was inserted in the last season. You remember? And I made a little joke about that because that was funny because, oh, no, actually, it was more the Isabel
last
thing.
Episode,
but that lady, Carol, okay, I got such a feeling from not Louise. Well, I guess technically Louise.
He started over here. We ended up over here.
Going back to the Ezekiel comment.
I asked a question and you just kept rolling. And I was like, can nobody hear me?
I didn't hear you.
Okay.
No, I didn't hear you.
That's why I was like, do I not exist anymore?
I'm on a roll here. Okay. You don't stop. The train has left the station. It's an express
said last
train,
season.
Bridget.
And so I was trying to clarify, were you talking about last episode?
Last episode.
No, last season with Aslan. Connie was mentioned in the same breath as Carol.
Okay.
The way Carol was mentioned was that lady.
I see.
Lady Carol, that some lady. I was glad that he mentioned Carol. I just made a joke about it, the way he phrased it. Mentioning Ezekiel. Okay, and then going back to Carol and Ash, in most interactions outside of Daryl, but not limited to Daryl, Carol doesn't often show her cards. And to see her want to sincerely connect with Ash on a sincere level, not based on a lie, I think we can all agree she did not have to do that. She normally would not because she wants to get the thing. And she would have died not telling somebody. I'm not making a judgment value. I'm making a value judgment. So to see her open up to somebody who she genuinely wants to have a relationship of some kind with is what my take on that is. Because I feel like that's what that's based on, is pretty interesting to see. Like this little bit of somebody outside of the normal cast of characters that she wants to connect with on a deeper level, which is the only reason I think she even does this. Which is why I'm not ready to agree that it's just to relieve her burden. I think she does this because she wants to get on the right footing with this guy.
You can ship whoever you want, Dave. I don't ship this.
It's not about that.
I don't ship this. I think it comes back to what Rachel was saying is like part of it has to do with the trauma of losing Sophia. And that's pushing a lot of this. Some of it is to relieve her own guilt. Daryl pushed her. He said, why don't you just tell him the truth? Because Daryl is now coming back from this journey, a changed person, a changed man who's like, why are you wasting your time lying to people when you don't have to lie to them? And you didn't even tell a lie that would have been easy to pick up later. You could have said I was your brother. Mm-hmm. And that would have been like an easy correction later. But no, you picked your daughter. And Ash is 100% correct to say that is like so beyond where you should have gone. He lost a child too. He's grieved the same things. Carol's grieved this a number of times over. This was such an inappropriate reaction because she's obviously really going through it. And then when we finally get this discussion about, this was probably in the last episode, who was coming back? You said somebody was coming back on the radio and she says, oh, well, nobody, just a feeling. But one, is that a lie because you don't want to distract him with something else at this moment? Or two, you're lying to your best friend and unnecessarily. So it's obviously got something to do with something else. Like there's something else going on with her.
So one of the things that really bothered me about the last episode, she did not have to pretend to be Isabel. She could have just been herself.
Yeah, it was weird. It was super weird.
There was no need for that. But just, I guess when you keep lying, it's just easier to lie at this point.
She's so used to lying to herself. And if she tells Ash the truth, then for once she's not lying to herself at the same time. She
has to face that same truth.
She has to face, and it's just like you were saying, she didn't have to let herself be called Isabel. But it was just easier, wasn't it, than trying to explain anything. So the combination of Daryl and the visions of Sophia have pushed her to stop lying to herself. She's been thinking so much about Sophia, and I'm sure a lot of this feeling that she has is, would Sophia like the person I am now? Would I be the person that Sophia still love, even if I did find her. This lady in my life was true, and I was going to France to find her. Would I be the person that she would still love and see as her mother? Or how have I changed that much?
That's why that line that she says, the world is filled with what ifs. Trauma alone.
In response to we were just lucky.
Yeah, trauma alone will do that to you. You know, you'll go back and think, for her, like, what if I hadn't ended up with Ed? What if I had traveled the world instead? And then she wouldn't have been a mother. Then she wouldn't have lost her daughter. And then she wouldn't be going through any of this emotional baggage now. It's really easy to like spiral out. It kind of resonates now thinking about it.
You mentioned Ed. She's probably been lying to herself her whole life. Ed's going to get better. That's why she stays with him. Things are going to be different. So she's lied to herself and it's cost her. Now she feels like she's going to start fresh with Laurent. She's not going to start with Laurent with a lie, because even when she had Henry, she was probably lying to herself then about what she was doing and the life that she was living.
Oh,
She probably knew it wasn't going to last.
While he was asleep, she burned all the saviors.
So she's always lied to herself. And now she has this fresh chance with a new kid to not do that and to be honest and step forward. So maybe that had an angle to it also.
Maybe, yeah.
I didn't think about that. I didn't see that, but I like that you thought ahead that maybe that could be part of it.
When it comes to Ed, I agree that she has been lying to herself for a long time. But I just want us to see the other side of that. Not that he would get better, but just that she couldn't be without him, or that he would hurt her if she did leave, or she wasn't going to be a good mom or whatever. Because we see some of that in that episode. I cannot remember the number of it. We've referenced it already this season, so I apologize for not knowing.
I'm kidding.
No, not Tell It to the Frogs. That one I know. No, it's the one where they're looking for Beth and they're in Atlanta and they stop by the abused women's shelter where Carol had stayed with Sophia.
You referenced that more than once this season.
I know, because it plays a big part in Carol's past and it informs what we know about her. As someone who's gone through that, it's not always about that the person is going to change. Sometimes it's you're lying to yourself that you're not strong enough to leave. Something
in what you guys were saying gave me a little bit of a dark thought that I'm not 100% convinced that is a thing, but I'm wondering sometimes when people lie so much in general. Let's not talk about Carol specifically, but we will a little bit. People that are habitual liars tend to believe their own lies because that's what we kind of all do in order to interface with the world. To a surprising degree, I think all of us build an image of ourselves that we put out in the world. We see ourselves a certain way and we want others to see that too. And when they don't, we get really pissed.
Our idealized self. We talked about that recently.
To put it bluntly, we're all varying degrees of narcissism. We all employ a certain, no, it's true, egotistic narcissism. And how that expresses itself is in the way people call you out on, well, you aren't who you think you are, and how you handle that. That is how your narcissism is determined. This is how you can handle that. But one, I thought to myself, now that Ed is out of the picture for 12 years, she says 12 years this year, well, who is she lying to now? Maybe someday I'll be better. Not Ed, me. It's the only one she has left. But that led me to a darker thought, which was, in some way, do you think Carol believed her own lie? That she had to really believe? And it didn't help that she's seeing Sophia in the barn, in the roof. We saw a little bit of that in the rooftop garden where we saw the little girl dressed like Sophia from behind. That maybe she is looking for Sophia. She had to believe that lie a little bit in order to convince Ash, or she felt like initially that was the move, but really she was seeing her and she might as well believe her own lie that maybe I am looking for Sophia.
I like the explanation she gives to Daryl better than that.
Which one? Sorry. It's so many.
She picked a lie that had to be convincing, and it was something that she hoped would be true. I'm not going to say she convinced herself that it was true, but she was able to put herself in that mindset because she wanted it to be true so badly.
It's funny because I think in that moment, she's telling Daryl, it's a thing. It's a nebulous thing that I want it to be true. But we know it. She's saying it for the audience.
Maybe she just wants Daryl to be her little girl. I'm just kidding.
Well, I think that's enough of an explanation, though.
Oh, she could do his hair.
I just vision of Norman Reedus with like a baby bonnet and holding a bottle or something.
That's probably a thing on the internet anyway. I'm
sure.
It's Charity's browser cache. What are you talking about?
No.
You tried it once. I'm not shaming you, Charity.
I might Photoshop that now, though.
Along with Yoda Losang and Yoda Laurent. I got it. Oh my God. Put them together. I'm glad to feel like my mind has changed about that a little bit. I still think there is something there. I'm not saying relationship.
Yeah,
I
Dave,
see
we can all
seedlings of something.
We can all agree she
Yeah,
really
yeah,
does
but-
care about him. Her conversations with him are fine, but because we know she's lying, it's kind of hard to see it. But when she talks about him to Daryl, she says that he's still
A good person.
Yeah, like that he's a good person, that he's still
Yeah.
like innocent to the world,
Right.
burdened by
Mhm.
like the yoke of suffering, like in that way.
In her way.
I think we can all agree that she really does very much care about him.
There's also a difference because when Sophia died, she still had people around her. She
Mhm.
still had people to help her back out of that. And Ash apparently was completely alone. So he had no one.
Oh, like is this?
He has no one to help him recover. And now finally he does.
This is why I started talking about Ash. By the way, is because of the comparisons between he and Laurent. It's the same reason you guys said when it came to, we had some back and forth, and all of it could be true, that Daryl is responsible. Daryl is his father figure. Daryl is, it's his duty. He feels like it's his duty to be with Laurent and bring him back to America, etc. Whatever the reasons were. But it's the same reason with Ash. The kernel of all of that is that Laurent is really, he wants to be with Daryl. Daryl wants to be with him. And without him, he has nobody. His aunt's gone. His mom is gone. Père Jean, sisters, Sylvie.
Everybody Laurent knew and cared
Was
about
close
is
to.
gone. But I think that also is one of the things that makes him special is even after all of that, he's still the kind, very loving and
Yeah.
gentle person that he's always been. Even losing Issa did not destroy him. He was like, you know what? She's with my mom now. Everything's okay. So even all that trauma and death that surround him, even watching people be killed in front of him has not changed his innate goodness. And maybe that is why he's special.
And Codron even sees that too. This is why I'm transposing it to Ash too, because it's interesting that we're going to go back to Greenland on this one, because it's what I think is a little bit disturbing about when Ash kills Hannah, I think it was, one of the Greenland ladies, and how Carol sees this and it's like, oh gosh, I mean, I get it, but she was turning into a good person. she was coming along for the ride, and she just murks her because, you know, that's the other one who was probably conspiring to R-word me. So yeah, sorry, just can't do it. I would, but I can't. And so I think part of, she does in a similar fashion want to save Ash from the harshities of this world. That part of maybe even her that she could, that inner child sort of pre having to go through all the suffering, Carol, that she wants to preserve because it's important. Nice people in this world are important.
She wants Ash to be her baby, not Daryl.
That's exactly what I'm saying, Sharondy. That's on my browser cache. Call the authorities.
She should have taken Ash to the Demimonde. I bet that would have made him feel a little bit better.
No, he's my pure baby. No, don't go, Ash. Browser cache, erase. I wanted to cap that thought because a lot of this reminded me of The World Beyond and how we were talking about it's important to have people behind walls to maintain humanity. As much as everybody made fun of it. What do these kids know? Well, no, but they're educated on the apocalypse. They're just keeping their humanity behind walls until the CRM completely demolishes them. But at the same time, it's important. Judith, too, to a large extent, behind walls of the prison cell. She doesn't know any better until they reach Alexandria. And then she gets an education like these kids. And it's important to have people like Ash, people like Laurent, to be able to be these symbols of hope to kind of turn to. And some of them can get out in the field, but, you know, they have a role in this whole thing.
Laurent was
sorry.
describing the place he wanted to be. Do you think we'll ever have a place where kids can go to school and we can ride a bike? And the thing I was thinking was, Dad is in America. He still didn't want to go. Even when Daryl's like, you can have that. There's a place in America that's like that where you can go to school and you can have friends. And even then, Laurent's like, I want to stay here. Was there something in there where Laurent suddenly realized that he would be allowed to be a child if he went there? Because he changes his mind and he's like, I want to go to America. I don't have to be this. I can go and just be a regular kid in America.
I think a lot of his changing of his mind had to do with the fact that Daryl reassured him essentially that the burden is not for him to bear, that all of these people died to get him to where he is. He can't leave that if he stays where he is. It's like he'll be living with that memory always.
It's like the witness relocation program. He moves to another place. Nobody knows who he is or what he was before.
Exactly.
And so that pressure is not on him. He realized, I can let this go and I can move on.
But I get why he would hold back, because the sacrifices changed too. Père Jean, the sisters. It was all about getting him to the thing. And I wouldn't fault him for thinking that half of these people died because they wanted me to be the savior. And it's talked about in the air, and Falou kind of reinforces it. And he says the thing that you guys all said, if you need proof, it's not belief. It's fine. Very fringe.
My exact words out loud were, amen, brother. While I'm watching the episode.
Exactly.
I thought about the
I said
conversation.
that during last episode.
I thought about the
we all said it
conversation.
in every episode. Except for me, because I'm horrible. I can see how he wouldn't be able to let that go. All these people died for me. And I think in his mind, he's registering, not just the people recently that died to protect me, but who had this hope for me. Even Codron, maybe to a certain extent, wants him to be that thing in a nebulous way, that thing that people need. They need to hear that they can forgive themselves. They need to hear that they can be forgiven. And I like that explanation, Bridget.
Daryl feels like if he takes Laurent to a place like the Commonwealth, then maybe Laurent's innocence can be maintained to a point. He still has to teach him self-defense, and he's still going to have to do that kind of thing. But if he goes to the Commonwealth,
he can ride a bike.
Right. He won't have to lose the innocence that he has, the innocence and the innate goodness, because he won't have to go through the same traumas other people have gone through. If he goes to the Commonwealth, he's in a safe place where he can be a kid, and he won't have to become the person that you have to be in this world right away. He can be a kid and then grow into it.
I'm just going to add one more thing. When you're raised from the time you're very young, 12, 13 years, to be a certain thing, and then all of a sudden you realize you can actually have a life, that is alien to you. I know he reads about it and he's talking about airplanes at the end of the episode. He's like, I never seen one up close, and we'll be in the sky and we'll be close to Isabel and my mom. These are all disconnected concepts that he's only read about. And when he says, I want to be able to ride a bike and go to school, etc., we all automatically went to just the last episode where I think it was just the last episode when he was talking about Isabel, about taking a stroll and watching a sunset. We all kind of went there. We're like, yeah, you can do that. But the reason why it's obvious is because he's like, that's not my thing. That's not what's meant for me. The conversation he has is because he wants to push Daryl away. But that's because he's thinking, I don't want yet another person to have to sacrifice for me because of this cause that I'm used to. That's where I'm relegating it to. He needed to let go of that conditioning. That's what I wanted to hammer. That conditioning that he's had from such a young age. Can you imagine how hard that must be to break out of as a kid? You're meant to see yourself a certain way for so long.
No, that's like the highest level of brainwashing. You're the Messiah, Dave. That's like so high level.
It is for us, but for a kid, he doesn't know any better.
That's true.
That's why Daryl was effective on him, because here's somebody that comes along that does not believe that he's Messiah and does not even necessarily believe in what they're talking about, yet he's still doing the right thing. And I think maybe that gave Laurent a different view of what he could be. He doesn't have to be what the nuns told him he had to be, or Père Jean. He can be somebody else.
Maybe even just add a little piece that may not be true, but I can see it, is, can you imagine the little bit of separation? And first of all, you have to remember he grew up with all these older ladies. He didn't grow up around children for most of his life until that.
Except Sylvie.
I don't know how long with Daryl, when he finally meets other kids.
Except Sylvie.
So yeah, Sylvie, but Sylvie was older than him. I mean, I guess for a little while, maybe they had some connection. That age gap does close in a little bit. Well, she was
like an older sister to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But like not other friends and kids. She was like a family member, if you really think about it. Not other kids and friends that you can be friends with outside your sister. This is my point. And so can you imagine the disconnect? They all love him. They all care for him. But there's always a little bit of space between them and you, if you're going to put yourself in Laurent's position. There's always that little bit of, you're the Messiah. There's a little bit of fear in there too, maybe. I don't want to piss off the Messiah. There's a little bit of that going on. This kid is really special, and so I'm going to walk on eggshells in certain situations to not, first of all, piss off God. And two, on the positive level, to not, because he's still a kid. You want to be able to give him all the tools that he needs and not traumatize him in any form or fashion to mold him in a way that is unbecoming. And so, yeah, I can see a world in which, by the way, makes me think of last year when Daryl kind of grabs him and shakes him after Aslan dies. And there's that little bit of anger in him, and you're believing all these things. And it was interesting probably for Laurent too, to see finally somebody break out of that routine and shake this kid and be angry with this kid in a way that he's never, as traumatizing it was for me to watch, see this moment between these two people that I don't think I've ever seen him that angry too. It really disturbed me in a way. in that struggle, I think they connected on a level that I don't think he's ever had with anybody. Does that make sense? That even between he and Isabel, there was a disconnection, I think, too, because she had to pretend she was somebody else. I don't think he knew she was his aunt, if I'm not mistaken, for the longest time until Daryl came into his life.
Yeah, I think she told him later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
much later.
That
right?
just shows how strong Laurent is, because he had this super soft upbringing as far as the apocalypse goes. He didn't have to suffer. He didn't want for anything. There was no fear or anything. And now he's thrown into this. It's been a pretty short period of time. What has it been? Maybe a couple of months this has taken place. So in this couple of months, he's lost everybody he knows and cares about, has been shuffled around, watched people die, watched all these terrible things happen, and he's still the hopeful, innocent kid that he was. And I think that shows just exactly how strong Laurent really is. Maybe that is why he's special. You remember in Fear when John and Dwight were talking about how the apocalypse changed John, when he was like, "You're lucky it didn't change you." And John was like, "Well, it changed me in a good way." Maybe this is a good change for Laurent.
It's the Walking Dead formula.
Right. It's changing him for the better, but he was already a good person, and he's not letting it change him for the worse.
There's a good line of comparison between what you just said about Laurent. He was already good. He became better. Well, he kind of entered this world under the apocalypse, but that's a different thing. You can draw that line to Losang, where arguably it made him worse. The rigors of leadership wore on him to a point. Right. The feeling of the demands of the people of him to have a solution.
Well, he was no longer trusting in God. He was trusting in man, predominantly himself.
Well,
that's really the whole thing for him.
That's what happens with most people in the apocalypse, is it changes them for the worse. Janae, Sabine, maybe this is what makes Laurent special. He's not ordained by God. He's not the Messiah. He's just someone who the apocalypse doesn't change for the worse. Even Carol, I'm not saying Carol changed for the worse, but she changed in a sense where she does crazy things. Yeah. Everybody has changed, and maybe this is where Laurent is different, because he doesn't let it change him. That's how he can be a source of inspiration to people, because people can see that you can still be good.
This is why people push to protect this kid. You kind of see this in villages, how a village will surround a kid, protect the kid until such an age where no amount of protection is going to, you can prepare the kid, you can feed the kid, you can educate the kid to a point, prepare for the cruelties of the world as well, not just prepare them for adulthood and relationships and stuff like that. And then there comes a point where you have to let that kid be out in the world, and hopefully they won't be a complete dick. But what I'm saying is that I think France is, in a way, we'll just use the large term France, all the people that this kid meets, they want to protect. They forgot themselves. Like Codron, they forget themselves. They worry about themselves. They give food to the Pouvoir de Vivant. They do all these things to protect themselves. And when they see this kid, they're like, wait, there is a future. And there's a party that wants to protect that future. Maybe it's human nature, that part of you that wants to protect a future for generations to come, like a sort of prime directive. It doesn't have to be religious, but it's interesting to see that, because he represents humanity in a child. And it didn't have to be Laurent. Like I said, it could be any kid, but this kid takes that sacrifice and rewards all the people that he comes across with a response even. Maybe it's his duty to not relinquish his humanity. Maybe that's his role, that he does his best to meet that challenge. That's what makes him so special. He doesn't let them down at all. He's very special. But in the same breath, I will say this. I keep seeing Isabel in Laurent. There is a little bit of that con artist in him, that reading people in such a way, we said this in the very first episode, reading people in such a way to be able to see how they're feeling, but then using that, what would normally somebody associate with a kind of shady tactic, using it in a way to help people to genuinely get at the thing that's really bothering them, which is what I saw in Codron. He had the answer right away, and he was hoping he could apply it to himself, but that's a side note. You see this again and again and again, that he can read people in such a way, like Isabel did in the clubs, to kind of get the watches and the money and stuff, but he's using it for good. I'm glad that I could see that in him. It's hard not to.
I was actually enjoying the demi-monde scenes, watching the crazy girl dances, and the music was great. Very different.
There was irony too. Anna Valeri says, all of France wants to be free, as she looks at the waiter with the drinks. And yet he's dressed as a sex slave, and it was like, and she kind of laughs like she knew the joke. She just knew. I know what I'm saying is they want to be free, but sometimes they want to be slaves.
He didn't want to be, but
Quinn's rules were a little too tight, so I just loosened them some.
Oh, did you catch the Mona Lisa painting that they must have gotten from Maison Mare?
Of course.
Mine now. But
She's
I can't believe we
Strand.
haven't said this before, and I.
Lady Strand.
Lady
She is
Marmalade.
scaring the touch. Nicely done with the pronunciation. I can't believe we haven't said this before. Sincerely, doesn't the demi-monde feel like when Quinn was in charge, it was Hades, and when Anna Valeri's in charge, it's
Mardi Gras.
Euripides, I think, who went. So this is what
That's
Sharon
fair.
just did.
Actually, that's fair.
Yes, you're in the same general vicinity of where I was going. But yeah, if you remember from Greek mythology, Hades captures, was it Euripides? His
Persephone.
lady?
Mm-hmm.
Persephone. Thank you. It was Persephone that went down.
That's what she
And,
said.
you know, she almost gets saved. Especially in the demi-monde. I should feel like I should break out in the song. But didn't it feel like Persephone was the one who was running Hades now? There was something about that I didn't really associate the demi-monde with.
It was a little more springtime for Hitler.
That is a really great correlation, actually, because of the musical production of it all.
Correct.
I'll take it. You see the imagery I was trying to connect with. I feel like it was staring us in the face for 2 seasons.
It looked lighter, but I would argue that she is really struggling to maintain power.
I would agree. Sort of.
She makes it look so easy, though.
No,
I did kind of realize that on a level, she talks about fascists, etc., but you realize how she has to be in order to maintain things. But then I wondered, what is keeping anybody from ransacking this place and organizing against her? I just keep thinking about that. But then I realized that what happened to the last person who tried to stay in charge? Maybe that's what keeps them in line. The person with the power arguably has the biggest target on their back. And so they're like, you know, I'm glad you're in charge. I will take it.
to some degree, I don't know that they're happy about it because
They don't look it.
no, they look very unhappy. It's almost like she's too flighty for it. Everything is just like on her whim. And there's little to no foresight, maybe because of that. The people who are employed by her are like, you are not making the right choices right now, which I don't know. Maybe she is. We will have to wait and see.
I don't know if we'll go back to that. Oh, wait, no, actually, I watched the teasers incidentally.
It was
which, by
on
the
for a
way,
second, and I saw that she was on the next episode.
I'm not talking about it. Some of you do turn it off. I feel like they gave away a key plot point in the teaser for the next episode that gives you answers. That the episode ends on who's going to go on the plane. And the teaser kind of shows you.
She's just like everybody else, and she's fallen under, I don't want to say fallen under Laurent's spell, but she feels the same power, for lack of a better word, from Laurent as other people do. And so it's not that she's flighty, but when it comes to Laurent, she feels like she needs to do whatever she can to help him. If you remember in season 1, she gave him the Eiffel Tower necklace, remember?
Yes.
Whatever it is about him that people feel, she feels it too. That's why she's doing the things she's doing.
I shouldn't have said it that way.
She's doing what she feels is right.
I think Dave was the one that said she was flighty.
I said that. What I was trying to get across is that I feel like the
Flighty?
people who work
Really?
for her probably feel that way.
I can agree
Yeah.
with that. Or maybe she also
True.
realizes that Daryl and Laurent are the reason that she has the bar now, because they're the reason that Quinn is dead.
Which is why she helps them so readily. She's like, well, you're my good luck charm. But also, I do think that says a lot about her. The two things that inform you on who she really is more than she jokes about is how she cares for Laurent, cares about doing the right thing for France, let's say. While she says a new Genet will pop up, I get the sense that the demi-monde will always be there for the people, that they need her. They need her spirit in the demi-monde. If you really think about it, Quinn was the demi-monde, but I think Anna Valeri drove that bus. And now that he's gone, she gets to do with it as she sees fit. I think Quinn maybe skirted the rules for self-interest in some places here and there, did things for himself, didn't do things for the good of everybody. And I think she is doing everything that she does for the sake of this place, not just for herself. And she sees this institution as necessary in the current time. Even though Genets will rise and fall, the demi-monde will always be there for either whoever's in power, for the needy, for the soldiers, for the not soldiers, whoever wants to come in. This is the neutral zone. This is where the apocalypse doesn't reach. We're already in the catacombs. We're in the dead. She represents an institution that I think, as begrudging as all the employees are, they realize it's necessary. And who wants to be the ruler in hell? I wouldn't. I'm glad to take orders.
Being an employee at the demi-monde is probably somewhat of protection. You're known in the city, and people
Also,
aren't going to
yes.
mess with you. Any leader in history will tell you that hunger is the first thing that'll make people rise up. Lack of entertainment is the second thing.
I think you put a finger on something, Sharon D. It takes what I said a step further. In a way, why can't this place be part of the solution? Just like Laurent was meant to be protected. The demi-monde should be protected too. It's part of our soul, that part that this place represents. The material, the dancing, the drinking, the sex, all of that stuff should be protected. It's not just about the holy side of your life, because it's never more clear when Losang comes to the bar and they play with each other. The dancers and singers, etc., they're getting in his way, and he's not giving them static. He's just like, they recognize that they're both parts of a whole that makes us up. In that, this place is just as necessary as the savior of humanity. That's really cool if you think about it. People need this place. They're always going to need this place that is a part of themselves. So we didn't talk about the one scene that I know Rachel would definitely want to talk about, which is saving Ash and the evil Walking Dead. And I'd like to give the floor to you, Rachel, to lend us your thoughts. See if you have it in you to be animated about what happened, or if you didn't really like it, I would like to hear why you didn't.
I have so many questions. Actually, no, I don't. I have one question. What happened to the walkers? 2 souped up walkers just went through and started tearing apart all the other ones? Have we seen this?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't
Yeah, we saw that at the end of Daryl Dixon
when they
season
were
1.
fighting in
I
the
don't
pit.
remember them.
The crazy walker just ran over and grabbed the one walker and ripped it in half or something.
Ripped its head off.
Yeah.
Yeah. It informed you that they do tear each other apart if there's nothing else around to tear apart.
I guess I needed to see it again at some point, because I saw him inject the things and I'm like, what the heck? Now you got 2 extra crazy ones to deal with. And then that really, really cool pan around shot where it's just like, what's going to happen? Yeah, like what's going to happen? And then all of a sudden, like explosions of blood everywhere. And I'm like, so now someone else is there? And I kept waiting for like somebody to open a door, and then the walker like came through the window, and I was like, what? And then Carol kills it, and then the other one comes through the back, and I'm like, what is happening? I was so confused. I honestly forgot that the souped up walkers were attacking the other ones.
It's a small consequence of injecting them with aggression. By the way, you notice that's why Daryl chooses to inject one on the opposite side and the other on the opposite side, because they don't tear each other apart.
Right. So they'll get everything in between them. Yeah.
To reinforce we're not BSing you, Rachel. This is a thing.
No, I guess I would have just liked to see it again at some point for like a reminder, because I did forget that we saw that. I was a little confused.
I think my favorite part was when they got out of the car and like all the bodies were just like in half and they're just like moving around. It was so funny.
Animatronic heads. One of my favorite parts about all that is when Carol says something to the effect of,
"Don't worry, we're gonna get you out of here.
I'm gonna get you out."
I just laughed out loud when he said that.
He looks at Daryl and he's like, who's that guy?
Who's he?
She should have said, that's my daughter.
You don't recognize her?
She's changed.
From the barn?
It's very nitpicky and doesn't even matter, but Ash is in the front seat. And then when they get out of the car, all of a sudden he's in the back seat climbing out with Daryl. And I'm like, you were in the...
Oh, well, maybe it got stuck though too. Because you remember how the walkers pushed back?
I looked in the car and I'm like, okay, well maybe like he put the seat down and he just like hopped over. No, the seat was up. Yeah. I looked.
You know what? Exactly me when I was saying, and I double checked it today because I'm so annoyed by this. I actually found out where Maison Mère is. As Daryl and Carol are walking into Maison Mère, there's a little bit of a writing on top of the fort. It's a fort, and it's really Fort de Colmay. It's on the outskirts on the northwest of Paris. And why did I look it up? Because of my little rant about how can Mont Saint-Michel be in the north if this place is further north? Mont Saint-Michel is directly west, but it's just a little bit south on the coast of France. So it just bothered me, and I'm so sorry. I really, so I can have it too sometimes.
Just dumb stuff that doesn't even matter.
I feel like I'm taking away that role from you guys when you get all nitpicky. I'm like, well, now I'm stealing it. I'm taking it back. I'm taking them all back.
That scene in particular reminded me a lot of when they went to the packing plant. Trailers were all full of walkers. It was Daryl and Aaron. Morgan was the one.
Morgan saves
them. It made me think of that a lot, just being surrounded by the walkers and Daryl being involved in it.
There weren't too many references to Morgan this episode, if you ask me.
Okay, well, The obvious one being Losang, Aikido. One is one too many? Is
Two.
that what it is?
It was two. What
was
Sharon
the other
just
one?
said.
Sorry.
Daryl being in the car.
Oh.
Sorry,
Oh.
that was like
Oh.
a callback to when
got you.
Morgan came and saved them. That's too many.
I got it. Wait, so hold on a second. I don't want to be this guy, but
Yes, you
I
do.
will.
Don't lie.
You don't like Fear Morgan. You like Walking Dead Morgan.
Fair.
To a limit.
That is valid.
Now we cleared that up. Do you think the show in some form or fashion is alluding to maybe we'll see him in some form or fashion in the universe somehow?
No.
I know that sounds really weird, but
If Morgan shows up in France, I am done.
is this the perfect place where I mentioned that Relishing the Dead interviewed Lenny James on their live stream
I saw
basically
that.
recently?
Mhm.
I will hopefully at some point in time put a link in the description. But Relishing the Dead on Facebook is where you should be, the Facebook group. It's where the nexus of most things happen. They do have a Facebook page. They do have a YouTube channel. You should really look into it. But they did do a live stream with Lenny James. They did a long interview with him. They posted some clips today, and some of the answers Lenny had to give about some of the things that we were thinking about are really interesting. I haven't seen the whole interview. I've seen clips of it, but I really do think you should check it out. It does strike me as interesting. It was an interesting conversation, one that I think I would love to have one day with him. The question really stands. The show didn't have to introduce Aikido and the contrast of all life being precious in a person who thinks that the life of a kid is not precious enough to save and waste instead. If Alou puts a finger on this episode, that you would harm a life of a child for the sake of everybody, it's a bridge too far. So none of you think this is like a narrative tell.
That
Okay.
would be
all right. I didn't-
absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be done
This
because I'll
whole
never
show
be
is
done.
insane.
But-
All these shows are insane. The Dead Walk? What is happening? Morgan can't come back. Carol finds Daryl. That's even more insane.
Maybe
objectively
I need to
speaking.
clarify this. Me llamo es Morgan.
That's the thing. He shows up in France, but they've already moved on to Madrid. It's like, hey, where is everybody? I came to save Daryl and Carol. Like, what is happening? And that's it. That's all you see of him. And so will you be done?
Yes.
Wait, hold on. I was making a funny. He's in the Zodiac with Baby Mo. They went to France directly.
They
didn't-
rode in a
stopped
trash
France.
can across the ocean.
Mhm.
They
I'm
followed.
looking for somebody.
They navigated by the pants
Morgan
wearing
takes
moon.
attack.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm being called out now. Thanks. I agree. That is moon wearing pants. Let's move on. How did you feel about Losang's death?
That was another callback.
Bridget gives a thumbs up for the audio podcast
Right.
while eating snackities.
I'm sorry. I'm so hungry. And there's high chews in the house. And that's what I went and got. And they're so good.
High chews are delicious. We've seen Daryl use skulls another time to kill somebody.
When he hooked it with the fingers and whack.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, it was a Les Affamés in the burnt. There's like a
They
field
were like
of
trapped
charred
in like
walkers.
tar and half melted.
Tar,
and,
like it was, they were burnt by the tar. Yeah, and he pulls. It was like a Predator move. He pulls it from the eye sockets, and then the spine comes out, and everything. It beats the other
and
one
then
with
beats the guy. Yeah.
You know what I really liked about that scene, other than the fighting, is that shot of the skull at the end.
Yes.
Because the light
Oh,
pouring
yeah.
through from the eye sockets looked like an eye indistinctly because the lighting is so dark on the outside and the light pouring through. I was like, oh, it looks like an eye. Ooh. Did you get that? I don't know. It was
No, I thought it looked
I feel
cool.
like
It looked
Rachel
cool.
in that
I liked
moment.
It
that
looked
it
cool.
was.
Yeah.
I liked the way they lit it and that it was very shiny and you could see the blood on it and everything and it was
Mhm.
broken.
It was
The broken
illuminated
jawbone, I
very
think it was.
artfully.
They're not filming in the real catacombs, obviously. But ossuaries,
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
a real thing. The cubby that Laurent hid in was Saint Laurent on the
See,
mantle. Yeah.
Mhm.
I did
I
notice that. I
didn't
didn't
see
put it in my
that.
notes, though.
I was
Yeah,
too
yeah.
busy thinking how stupid it was for him to hide in there.
I thought it was like a deeper thing you
Yeah.
could go back in.
I did too.
That was a throwback reference to Rick leaving Sophia
Sophia.
behind.
Yes, I said the
Yeah, I
same thing
thought
to
the same
Dennis.
thing.
Yep.
I hate this so much because this brings me back to, I hate this so much. I'm going to use Bridget parlance for this one. I hate that for Laurent, if that is a narrative foreshadowing.
His ending has changed.
This season's not over. Okay, the season's not over. Let me spit it out because I didn't really spit it out. On the one hand, I acknowledge the fact that the Walking Dead universe seems to spare many people near its sunset years. Many people, they actually don't die. On this show, we haven't been so lucky with Isabel. At least on The Walking Dead.
Nobody's
we lost
dying.
Rosita at the
Everyone
end.
is literally dying.
Listen, we have to compare it to early seasons where like, oh my God, who's going to stay alive by the end? And you have that picture, everybody's grayed out except for Rick. And there was
Daryl.
a question mark on Rick and Daryl, and that was it.
And Carol.
Carl died. All these Sasha, right? Abraham, not Eugene. He wasn't in the photo though. So there you go. What I'm trying to say is, compared to earlier years, people tend to seem to survive, I think, for the most part. But I'm also acknowledging that they're going out of their way to show that if Daryl is to be the one, the caretaker for Laurent, and Carol's reliving her journey with Sophia, maybe that's happening to prepare Daryl for a loss.
Given all of the callbacks to Sophia, this is going to be where it's different because they do different.
Mm-hmm. Learn from your mistakes.
Right.
Okay,
Carol
listen.
finally telling Ash the truth instead of her keeping up a lie. Now Ash can be there to save Laurent instead of him dying like Sophia did.
So you're saying risking breaking things in order to rebuild, to make a better you. She's risking Ash giving everybody the finger, because I felt like he was going to do that when Laurent goes, oh, I've never been on a plane before. I'm in Ash's headspace going, A, who the F is this kid? B, excuse me? C, not after Carol.
Told
Then
you
I'm
they were
thinking
going to
to
be wing
myself,
walking.
they're all going to be wing walking. See, there's not room in the plane.
So I mean,
In my head,
because she
No.
told the truth, karma or whatever, if that's your belief, changed it so that this will not have the same outcome as Sophia because Carol made the right choice.
I'm hanging on to your every word. I'm hoping that's true for all of us. I'm very uncomfortable with this kid not surviving at all.
Laurent is going to make
Whatever
it back to the
live.
Commonwealth, and he's going to meet Judith, and they're going to hook up, and they're going to make cute little Walker fighting babies later. They're too
Okay.
young now.
I gotta say this, because if I don't, I will regret it. Daryl says, it's not like you told him you're my brother, right? And Carol's like, ew, no. Not exactly how she said it, obviously. But of course, in my notes, I'm like, yeah, golf clap after Falou's speech. Well, if you need proof, then you've lost faith. When I say Sonia, do you remember the grieving lady who just lost her husband?
Mhm.
she's my favorite.
That's the
I love
woman
her.
who does the golf claps. I'm just reminding you, I had to go back in my notes to remember her name.
She's sassy.
And because I know that you loved her. And now she's
I'm
out of her
just-
grieving
I'm
process.
just
So she's
saying-
super sassy.
I'm just saying I would follow that man anywhere.
Why is he such
Heard.
a babe?
Heard.
I hate myself for saying
He
this
is.
out
He's just-
loud. Travis just came and opened the door and was like,
Excuse me.
"You're
Excuse me?
talking about me?"
Not exactly.
Oh, God, Bridget.
Bridge is like, obviously
man.
not.
Think of a
yes,
new
yes,
bedroom.
obviously, I'm talking about you.
Okay, Travis, manicure your beard. No, it's not possible. Never mind. Just call
It's
him
not.
Falou.
It's not possible, Dave.
They're completely different looking. One is just hairy everywhere in his face head, and the other one is manicured to the nines. It's
So he's a
outrageous
good-looking
how
guy.
good he looks.
He's looking awfully trim for the apocalypse. He must have Al's
Well, it
hairstylist.
seems to be. Oh yeah. Okay. When you said trim, I thought like figure wise, but yes, all that. He's manicured.
Yes, he's
It's
trimming the other way
insane.
also.
Wait, what was I touching on though? I remember because it was easy to forget. Daryl says, "What'd you tell him? I'm your brother."
Yeah.
And Carol goes, "Ew, no." And just like Sonia in this episode, I did great job, writers. Great job baiting the hook on the CARYL fandom.
She
No,
didn't
you're
say
more to
ew,
me
no.
than just that Daryl Dixon.
She just said no.
We have a special relationship because they've boned. That's why they can't say that. I had that in my head when she's like, "No, ugh."
no,
Like,
she
ugh,
did
like,
not.
no.
She just said no.
She said, no, nothing like that. I guess we all see what we want to see. Don't we,
We just
David?
get-
Right. Like Dave is just making up
I'm
complete
just
parts
like,
of the script.
I won't come closer. And I did indeed come closer.
She just does it anyway.
I
Bridget, come
won't.
closer. I'm putting myself in the headspace of people who are hanging on to these every words and picking it apart. And
I
seeing it in a
know. I'm
certain way, like,
sure that
kinda
they
like-
had a field
that,
day
you know-
last episode. They're like, now she's dead. He's gotta go back to Carol. I'm giving myself a pat on the back. I was going to say something worse than that, but I'm not going to now. It switched from my imitation of them to me. Just that.
Just to cap that off, it's hard not to put myself in that headspace of what they must be thinking when she says that. Because it's such a weird response. It's like, would it be so bad that she did that? But also, would it be so bad if she was herself with Dee Dee and Theo in the last episode? Like, she didn't have to be Isabel the nun, but she didn't have to do a lot of things.
She wanted to collect more data, apparently.
Yeah, but would it be so bad for her to say to Ash, yeah, you're like a brother to me? This is what gets me. Okay, that's not that strange. Yeah. Why is it so easy for him to do that with Rick and not easy to do that with Carol? This is what gets me. It's literally the writers baiting That goddamn hook. Sorry. Blasphemy. Whatever. Lord's name in vain.
I'm gonna disagree, but it's fine.
I'm still thinking about what you said was the most tear-jerky moment of the episode, Rachel. It was surprising.
It shocked me too.
Yeah.
I have one thing to say. I don't know if this got brought up in last episode. Hopefully Sharon D brought it up. That ain't a firefly. That's a lightning bug.
Actually, what I did was draw the parallel between that and The Last of Us when they called them Firefly people.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They're Firefly people now.
She completely
Derailed everything.
The most emotional moment for me in the episode.
Wait.
I'm like talking about how Isabel's just saying, I'm going to be okay. And she goes, Firefly people. I'm like, what is happening? I'm scared all of a sudden.
I thought you meant me
Like,
just
excuse me?
now.
Okay, I'm going to let you have this one. What did you mean by that? Well, Ellie in Last of Us. I'm like, oh my God, this is why she stopped me from saying the thing that's emotional that made me cry in this episode.
Speaking of The Last of Us, that was a cute little strawberry shout out.
Here she goes.
That was a cute little strawberry shout out with the strawberries when Codron found the strawberries.
Wait, let me catch up in my brain.
Yeah.
Is that a Last of Us?
he did
Where
eat
is
a
that Last of Us
strawberry.
Yeah.
reference?
Or maybe it was Strand, because Strand ate strawberries too.
We had said for several episodes, along with the fact that a man of faith loses it because he needs proof. We had also said for a man who does not see the writing on the wall, he sees that he can't get to the kid. God's protecting him from me. He walks into a crypt, and the first thing you see is death. He's walking into the catacombs, looking around. Oh, like some suddenly in the catacombs, there's suddenly skulls all around me. What is that all about? It's foreshadowing. It's so easy. But again, he doesn't see the signs. He's not recognizing the signs. Maybe if you walk into this place, you're going to die.
To be fair, most of the skeletons in the catacombs did not die down there. They were alive and they died on the surface, and then they were taken into the catacombs.
I thought it was telling that both second in commands, Janae's second in command Sabine, and Jacinta is the second in command, the one who influenced Losang to go little nutty pants, are now in charge.
How angry am I that they did not bother to make sure that woman was dead?
Because Codron is turning a new leaf, by the way, and that's why he doesn't do what Daryl did to Losang, essentially. Although, I feel like a weird saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Watching a grown man beat another woman was so weird. Because, okay, there are so many forces at play in this one scene. You're like, is this all right that I'm watching this and being okay with it? On the other hand, it's like, I hate this lady. I hope he's
good.
I got a little too excited, and then I realized, wait, I'm on the stage now. I need to get off the stage.
Is it like a doctor's office where they have to call another woman in to beat the woman for you yourself?
What doctor's office are you going to where they're beating women?
No.
Oh, yeah, what? Like the MMA doctor's office. Oh, I know what she's talking about. She's talking about like for the downstairs stuff.
When you have
When they frisk you at TSA if you're a woman, they grab a woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
The doctor, when they have to do downstairs
Not
stuff,
literally.
if it's a male doctor, they literally require a female to be present in the room. So I'm saying, is that what this is like? Like you have to bring in a female combatant to fight the other female? You can't let her fight the male? Is that where we're going with this?
There wasn't another female.
Oh my God, I was joking.
I'm so confused.
It's like a woman in a Codron mask. Is that what? Anyway, the point I wanted to make was, it was exciting to see.
I need to bring a woman in.
Please, union rep. But no, it was exciting to see Jacinta hold her own with the katana and stabbing Codron. But it was equally exciting to see Codron wipe it off. I was thinking to myself, wouldn't it be great if he just picked her up and threw her against the wall? Just like,
and then he did.
You know, like he's pretty strong. And then he did. And I was like, oh my God, did I will that? It's really weird. But equally exciting though, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you didn't think so, but I liked that Losang was difficult to take down. For the most part. Like Daryl's having trouble. Your protagonist can't have it that easy. Otherwise, it's not believable.
Correct.
You've seen him fight. You've seen Losang fight.
And he knows Aikido, and we know how that works. You use their force against them.
Oh, you said a bigger thing that I think you meant to say. Because I'm not taking it back to Morgan, but what we learned from Morgan, Aikido, and all that
I'm not
stuff
taking
was,
it back to Morgan, but Morgan.
Back to Losang, we learned about Aikido is redirection, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's all about redirecting the other. Like you said,
Yeah.
why couldn't Losang do that?
Because he sucks.
He had no balance.
Yeah.
You
Which is
see
why
him
he
get
lost.
visibly
Yeah.
upset. Do you remember when they did the
Yeah.
golf claps and he turns around to face the camera?
Oh, yeah.
Like away from the claps. He's like,
And his face is twitching.
I'm so angry. So
He
when
lost
gets-
control when he stabbed Isabel because she tried to cut him, and he was like, "Ain't nobody gonna cut me with my own rusty
Nobody
grate."
make me bleed my own blood.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody bleeds me but me. But
Too bad we didn't
you
let the infection
just put a
take
finger
in.
on exactly what his demise was. But it's not the cordyceps. What is happening here? You get to do it with the firefly people. I get to do it with the
No,
cordyceps.
the infection from the rusty grate.
Yes.
I meant for the fungal infection, the one that turns him into an explodey head.
It's not substrate, Dave.
Explodey head.
Well, he
That's not
he
right.
did get turned into an
Explodey
explodey
head.
head just by Daryl.
Point taken. What you said, Rachel, that was really the undoing. He couldn't redirect.
downfall,
he
yeah.
couldn't. Brilliant. Because otherwise, I think he could have.
At least they didn't show it
He
to
would've
us
taken Daryl
like,
down easily.
like they did Oberyn Martell.
Oh, I was.
I know.
gonna-
Yeah, they didn't show it.
wow.
They didn't show us. Oh. But that's what I pictured.
But I like the illusion.
Watermelon head.
It looked like I could have worn his face as a mask because it was so deflated. It's like the eye sockets were free.
You seen those videos where they put rubber bands around watermelons until they explode?
Copy. Roger that. Over and over. And okay. I do hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I think we all did.
I did.
Real complaints.
I did. I'm very glad that Codron was alive because I was really angry last week when I thought he was dead because he was one of my favorites. I'm still mad about Isabel dying. I'm never going to get over that because that was some bull.
Yeah. Well, I will note one thing. I felt like in the first season, I only just noticed it now because we're in the 5th episode. We're yay far with penultimate episode. Next one's the season finale. I don't know about you guys, but I did feel like the first season felt like we went more on a journey. Whereas in this season, I don't know about you, but I didn't feel as much as a big journey. I feel like we went places. It could be as a result of the cast of characters and how many of them we have. Now we have Ash, we have Carol, all the people that we thought were gone are here. And
The first season was a physical journey, and this one was an emotional one.
good answer. I'll take
So-
it 100%. Even though we feel like we're staying put for the most part, it's still an emotional journey.
Yeah.
It's still exhausting, but in a different way. Well, if you feel like that's true or false, like anything else we've said in this episode, and you feel like you want to add to it, head over to ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead. Tell us what you liked about this episode. Tell us what you didn't like about this episode. Just remember to tell us about this episode that you liked so much or didn't like this much after every single episode. It really does help us. I'm not going to force your hand, but we may just say something about that in the next episode or repost on social media. And if you really like what you've heard, I think you should join us in the chat as we discuss these episodes for free. And to do that, you can also follow us for free on ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead. But like I said at the top of this episode, please join a membership tier. We could use the financial certainty. For as little as $4 a month, you can get access to our Discord. You can tip us and also get access to our Discord, but you get more Discord access. Take a look at the memberships that we have on offer on either ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead. And hopefully we'll have made enough financial sense of our finances to be able to see you at a convention. I've been your host, David Cameo.
And I'm CosmoMom09.
Lazy Gardner.
And Bridget. Go to
ko-fi.com/monkey.
that's BUNKY BRUISETTER.
Spooky. We'll see you next week for the season finale of The Walking Dead. Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol, Shamalamadingo. Okay, thanks. BBQ. Bye. Say it, Charity. Say it. You want to say it.
Night.
No.
Hobbit.
Yeah.
No.
Stop it. Stop it.
Bye.
We gotta go. Bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you once again for listening to another episode of Squawking Dead, namely our discussion on The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon's penultimate episode of Season 2, titled Vouloir, c'est Pouvoir. I think we learned a lot about not only our characters, but about each other in this discussion. And I also want to thank you again for not only listening to this episode, but stepping up to our call to action. Many of you who were members rejoined. Some of you stepped out of the shadows and decided to make your desires heard by joining a membership tier for the first time. I think we'll be okay for the time being, but our fight is not yet over. Even though our new membership sign-up bonus has come and gone, the need for your support continues, so we will never stop banging the drum of you joining memberships, and even if you join the Walkers tier, it sends us a signal that we're on the right track, that we're doing something right, and perhaps even sometime in the distant future, we can actually make money off of this entertainment that you so love. Speaking of special thanks, what we like like to do it at the end of every episode is shout out our Great M Survivors and Whispers tier members in that order. Starting with the Great M tier, we have at Real Ryan GM on Instagram and X. In the Survivors tier, we have at Walking Dead Artist, the number 2 on Instagram. Moving on to the Whisperers tier, we have a couple of new members, the first of which is a return member. I'm talking about Takira, who you can find on ko-fi.com/Connie Dixon for life. That's Connie Dixon, the number 4 LYFE. More folks on Ko-fi, Linda Peck Athens, who you could find on ko-fi.com/fanartlindy. Aiden Atkin, who you could find on ko-fi.com/Aiden Atkin. On Instagram, we have at Judith.Morton, and of course, at ElisaJones71. Lastly, but not leastly, we have the ladies on Facebook, at Sandy.D.Morrison and at Kim.Rowley, the number 1. I want to thank you again for listening to this episode, for supporting us in all the various ways that you do, and for writing a review and rating us on the podcast platforms, namely the website that helps you do it all, ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead. And as always, I'd like to remind you that you, me, all of us, we are Squawking Dead.